Hi fellas, you won't find out of Google ever, or Western teachers or Western lecturers, but the fact remains that the Middle East, we're talking Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Palestine, Saudi Arabia for a while, was entirely Christian and with a small percentage of Jews for roughly 400 to 600 years before Islam made its appearance. Before the false prophet, had his visions in the caves of Hira, and he told them they were the master race and they could invade and kill and rape and rob and loot all other peoples, and that was okay. Yes, before these happenings in 627 AD, well, for those 600 years before, onto the, referring to the Christian calendar from zero, if you like, Christ's birthday, to 627 AD, the whole Middle East was relatively peaceful and Christian and Jewish. This is a fact. Well, in Egypt, even in Egypt, these forced conversions, these executions were prevalent. It's common under Sharia for people that are allowed to live, if they're allowed to live and were not executed, as with the Prophet's old gangsters in their book. Yes, they have to pay a jizya. A jizya is an extortion tax. A jizya is punishment for being an infidel, for being a dirty kufar, or kafir, kufar plural. Yes, this jizya often is set so high that the only way people can pay this jizya, certainly in the past anyway, was to let them steal your children. Yes, I'm not kidding. This is what they did in the Greek islands, in Spain, all over the Middle East. They mounted a jizya tax so high so they could be lazy gangsters, lazy violent gangsters, not do any useful work, and just take people's kids and women and sell them as sex slaves. And this is what they did for roughly 1400 years. See, so you can see why they suddenly converted. They wanted to convert to Islam, can't you? Because it usually meant, if they didn't, it usually meant, your children got taken, you got your head chopped off, or you were constantly enslaved under their jizya rules, their extortion tax rules. You'd be working just not to make yourself any better off, just to pay your infidel jizya tax. As we see in Egypt, anti-Christian feeling is widespread and it's rising, and it has been all over the Middle East, it has to be said. I mean, last year in Egypt, I think I'll put a link underneath, there was roughly 150 Christians were bombed out of their churches. The Coptic Christians, these, a bit like the Greek Orthodox, a bit like the Catholics, in fact. But Christians, nevertheless, all part of the Christian Brotherhood, as you would call it in days gone by. Yeah, he reveals the horrible life as a Christian in Egypt. This is a Christian businessman who took up a false name. You can see all the bombings. There's been some terrible bombings. Just ISIS suicide bombers. Well, I'm going to teach these infidels a lesson. Just walk into a Coptic church, bang. There's 40 infidels gone, which for them means they can go to heaven. They can go to heaven where they can lie on couches all day, enjoying, 70 plus virgins, young boys. Yes, don't forget them. Don't forget the young boys. Really essential in heaven, them. And they can lie back drinking sweet wine and eating fruit all day. Strange type of paradise to me. But this was a father who spoke to the Express using a false name. 2017 has been the worst year on record for Christian persecution, with more than 130 worshippers slaughtered inside churches. But the other gang were always the victims. Isn't this strange? They always play the victim card, but in this case it's some of their cronies, some of their gangsters, some of their warriors who are doing all the killing again. Yes, some of these are probably due to ISIS, some of them are probably due to other extremists, because there's so many extremist groups follow this ideology. They're all following the way of the prophets, because he was a gangster and a killer, and he stole people's kids, stole people's houses, stole people's cattle, all their wealth and their wives. So, they are in effect acting like he did. Here we are. And last month, government opened fire on a church in Cairo, killing 9 people, including a police officer who raced to the aid of the worshippers. Oh, God bless him. At least he tried to do his bloody job. At least he raced in there and tried to tackle them. And I bet he was a Muslim guy. Yeah, Christian persecution watchdog open doors. Ah, I've seen them on Twitter. I didn't know what it was referring to. I'll have to add them. I thought it was something to do with immigration or something. Yeah, they say Egypt is now facing an unprecedented level of persecution, with the country's Coptic Christian population, which numbers around 10 million, being targeted in numerous attacks. I've seen there was one literally about 5-6 months ago where they killed about 40 people. I remember reading that. Yeah, but as well as this, this deadly threats, they're always looked down upon, literally spat upon in the streets. Called dirty scum. This guy's experienced this. He's seen it growing up. It's been called dirty infidels. He's seen it. They are seen as being inferior. Here's some of the Christian funerals. Picture of Mary on one of the coffins. There we are. It's very much, I believe it's very similar to the Catholic Church, which is no big surprise because it all emanated from Catholicism and Palestine and spread throughout. The fact they've got the picture of Mary Magdalene on there strongly reinforces this. Of course, that's largely who the Catholic Church follows. Yeah, here we are. Since I was a child, I've had a lot of experiences. Intimidation, whatever. Well, I was not violently attacked, but I've definitely been discriminated against. My wife, my father, my mother, because of that radical mentality. Well, the radical mentality has been there since 627. Just to put a nice religion of peace fascia on it, a completely false fascia, and a very thin fascia at that. Very thin fascia. I mean, look at that. Oh, look at that. The church been blown to hell. Human blood all over the floor. Isn't that terrible? But anyway, thanks to the Express for bringing us this. I've not seen it mentioned in so many places. That is probably part of the Breitbart movement, who do show a lot more than everybody else. Of course, if you look on Google, you will never know that the Middle East was Christian and partially Jewish for 600 years before Islam, because this is being Sharia compliant. Just as ISIS demolished all of very ancient churches and monuments, so Google joins in with this eradicating history. The fact that Palestine was Christian, and this is largely and the Middle East was Christian entirely for a long time. This is why our King Richard and King Richard I, Lionheart, because boy he was, and his ally Philip II of France, both sent massive armies, put their heads on the line, and went and fought for our brother Christians, just like these, and for access to Jerusalem. And tens of thousands of them have never made it home. And despite what the bullshit you read in the history books, they were Christendom's crusaders. And in my mind's eye, at least, they still remain so. Okay. See you guys.